Let me begin with a truth that might hurt. There was once a man who kept running after everyone, his friends, his partner, his boss, his audience. He answered every call immediately, changed his opinions to fit the room, laughed when he didn't find it funny, agreed when he didn't believe it. He thought he was building connection. But one day, he looked in the mirror and asked a simple question: who am I when no one is watching? And he had no answer. Listen carefully. The more you chase people, the more you lose yourself. And the moment you lose yourself, no one can truly find you. Today, I want to share 7 truths that can change the way you live forever. The first key point is this: chasing people is fear disguised as love. It looks like care. It sounds like loyalty. It feels like devotion. But if you sit quietly and observe your own heart, you will notice something uncomfortable. When you chase someone, your chest feels tight. Your thoughts race. You replay conversations again and again. You are not acting from fullness, you are reacting from fear. Fear of being left out, fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough. Love is calm, love is steady, fear is restless, fear is loud, and many of us have confused the noise of fear for the strength of love. Think about the last time you kept checking your phone, waiting for someone to reply. You told yourself, I just care about them. But what was happening inside you? There was anxiety, there was overthinking, there was a silent question: why am I not important enough for an immediate response? That question is not born from love. It is born from insecurity. Love gives space, fear demands reassurance. Love trusts, fear assumes the worst. When you chase someone, you are often trying to calm your own storm by controlling their behavior. You want their message, their approval, their presence to quiet the voice inside that says you might not be enough on your own. I once heard about a young woman who changed herself in every relationship she entered. With one partner, she pretended to love hiking, even though she hated waking up early. With another, she acted indifferent and cool because he liked independent women. She thought she was being adaptable. She thought this was compromise. But slowly, she forgot what she genuinely enjoyed. Her favorite music, her real opinions, even the way she used to laugh. Everything became flexible. She wasn't loving, she was performing. And performance always comes from fear. Fear that if you show your true self, you will not be chosen. But a relationship built on performance can never feel safe because you know deep down it depends on an act. Fear makes you negotiate your worth. It whispers, if I do more, maybe they will stay. So you overgive. You apologize when you did nothing wrong. You tolerate disrespect because you tell yourself at least they are still here. But when love is real, it does not require you to shrink. It does not require you to twist yourself into someone else's comfort zone. Fear, however, will happily trade your dignity for temporary attention. It will convince you that crumbs are a feast. And the tragedy is not that others accept this version of you. The tragedy is that you start accepting it too. You may say, but isn't effort important? Shouldn't we fight for people we care about? Yes, effort is important. But effort and chasing are not the same. Effort is mutual. Chasing is one-sided. Effort feels like walking together. Chasing feels like running behind someone who never turns around. Effort respects your energy. Chasing drains it. When you find yourself constantly initiating, constantly fixing, constantly proving, ask yourself honestly, is this love or is this my fear of being alone speaking through my actions? Because fear is clever. It dresses up as dedication. It pretends to be strength. But underneath, it is simply afraid of silence. A man once told me he stayed in a friendship where he was always the one calling, always the one planning, always the one adjusting. He said, I just don't want to lose them. But what he did not see was that he had already lost himself. His weekends revolved around their schedule. His opinions softened so they would not disagree. When he finally stopped initiating, the friendship faded. He felt betrayed. But the truth was this: it had survived only because of his fear-driven effort. When he removed fear from the equation, there was nothing real left. And that realization hurt. but it also freed him, because now he knew the difference between connection and dependency. When you chase from fear, you are trying to fill an empty space inside you with someone else's presence. But that space was never meant to be filled by another person. It was meant to be understood by you. The fear of being unwanted often begins long before the current relationship. Maybe it started when you were a child trying to impress a distant parent. Maybe it grew in school when you felt invisible. And now, as an adult, you are still running, still trying to earn a place in someone's life. But you do not earn your place by exhausting yourself. You claim your place by knowing your value. And fear loses its disguise the moment you look at it honestly and say, I see you. You are not love. You are just afraid. The second key point is this: the one who chases has no power. Not because they are weak, not because they lack talent or kindness, but because the moment you begin running after someone's attention, you quietly place your emotional remote control in their hands. You start waiting for their response to decide your mood. If they smile, you relax. If they ignore you, your mind spirals. If they approve, you feel valuable. If they criticize, you shrink. That is not balance, that is surrender, and most people do not even realize when it happens. It feels small in the beginning, just a little adjustment here, a little compromise there. But over time, your center shifts. You are no longer standing on your own ground, you are standing on theirs. Power is not loud. It does not shout or dominate. Real power is quiet stability. It is the ability to remain steady when someone delays a reply. It is the strength to say, I have expressed myself clearly, and then let the outcome be. But when you chase, you abandon that stability. You over-explain simple things. You send another message to clarify. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you sounded too serious, too distant, too honest. You begin adjusting your tone to prevent rejection. And with every adjustment, you step further away from your natural voice. You think you are protecting the connection, but you are slowly giving away authority over your own emotions. I once met a young professional who was brilliant at his job, confident in meetings, clear in his ideas. But when it came to one specific colleague he admired, everything changed. He would rewrite emails 3 times before sending them. He would laugh at jokes he did not find funny. He would agree in discussions even when he had better solutions. Why? Because he wanted approval. And the moment approval becomes your goal, you stop leading. You start following. He did not lose his intelligence. He lost his grounding. His energy shifted from contribution to validation. And when that happens, others can feel it, even if they cannot explain it. Chasing creates imbalance in subtle ways. Imagine 2 people walking side by side. Their pace is natural. Conversation flows. Now imagine one person walking faster, constantly turning back to check if the other is still there. Or worse, one person running ahead, forcing the other to sprint just to keep up. That is what chasing does. It destroys rhythm. It removes equality. The one who chases becomes hyper-aware of every signal. A delayed response feels like rejection. A short answer feels like distance. And in that hyper-awareness, you lose your calm. Power lives in calm. When your mind is restless, your power is scattered. There is a difference between desire and dependency. Desire says, I enjoy your presence. Dependency says, I cannot feel okay without your presence. When you chase, you move from desire into dependency. And dependency shifts the balance of control. I remember a story of a woman who kept canceling her own plans whenever the man she liked became available. She thought she was being flexible. But over time, her friends stopped inviting her. Her hobbies faded. Her schedule revolved around unpredictability. She felt anxious when he was silent and relieved when he was attentive. Her life became a waiting room. And the one who waits constantly is not in power, they are on standby. You must understand this deeply. Power is not about making others chase you. It is about not needing to chase at all. When you are centered, you do not rush to fill silence. You do not panic when someone pulls back. You observe, you respond with dignity. If someone wants to step closer, you welcome them. If they choose distance, you allow it. This calm response unsettles people who expect you to beg, because most are used to reactions. They are used to people proving their worth again and again. But when you stop reacting out of fear, when you remain grounded in your own value, something changes. You are no longer easy to control. There was an older man in a small town who owned a modest bookstore. He was kind, soft-spoken, never desperate for customers. If someone walked in and browsed without buying, he smiled and thanked them for visiting. If they returned, he greeted them the same way. Over years, people respected him deeply. They felt peace in his presence. Why? Because he was not chasing sales, he was building value. His confidence was not aggressive, it was anchored, and that anchor is what you must build inside yourself. When you stop chasing, you stop performing. When you stop performing, you return to your center. And when you stand in your center, your presence carries weight without force. The third key point is this: when you chase people, you start living for reactions, not value. At first it feels harmless. You tell yourself you are just being thoughtful, just trying to keep the peace, just trying to be liked. But slowly, your inner compass begins to shake. Decisions are no longer based on what you believe is right. They are based on how others might respond. You measure your words not by truth but by impact. You filter your personality to avoid discomfort, and without realizing it, you begin building a life that is shaped by applause and fear of criticism, not by conviction. Think about how often you have held back an opinion in a room because you sensed it would create tension. You knew what you felt. You knew what you believed. But you looked around, read the faces, and decided silence was safer. That moment seems small, but it leaves a mark. Because every time you silence your values for the sake of acceptance, you send a message to yourself: my truth is less important than their comfort. Over time, that message becomes a habit. You stop checking in with your own beliefs. You start scanning the room instead. The room becomes your compass. And a room can change every day. There was a young man who dreamed of becoming a teacher. He loved guiding people, explaining ideas, seeing someone's eyes light up when they understood something new. But his friends valued high-paying corporate jobs, so he changed his goal. He started preparing for interviews in fields he did not even enjoy. When people praised him for being practical, he felt proud. When someone questioned his choice, he felt uneasy. His happiness depended entirely on how others reacted. Years later, he had the job, the salary, the approval. But inside, there was a quiet emptiness. Not because the job was bad, but because the choice was not his. It was shaped by reaction, not by value. Living for reactions is exhausting because reactions are unpredictable. Some days you will be admired, some days ignored, some days criticized. If your identity depends on those waves, your peace will rise and fall with them. You will celebrate when you are praised and doubt yourself when you are questioned. It is like building your house on a moving boat. No matter how beautiful the house is, it will never feel stable. Values, on the other hand, are solid ground. They do not shift with trends. They do not change because someone disagrees. When you act from values, you may not always get applause, but you get alignment. And alignment feels stronger than applause. I remember a woman who always said yes to extra work, yes to last-minute favors, yes to events she did not want to attend. She believed saying no would disappoint people, and she feared that disappointment would make her less lovable. But every yes that betrayed her energy made her resentful. She smiled outside and felt drained inside. One evening, exhausted, she realized she had not spent a single weekend doing what truly mattered to her in months. Her calendar was full of reactions. Her own priorities were missing. When she finally began saying no to what did not align with her values, some people were surprised. A few even pulled away. But for the first time, her life started reflecting who she actually was. When you chase reactions, you start editing yourself. You soften your laughter if it is too loud for someone. You hide your ambition if it threatens someone. You dim your intelligence if it intimidates someone. You become a mirror, reflecting whatever the other person wants to see. But mirrors do not have identities of their own. They only reflect. And if you live long enough as a mirror, one day you will look for your own reflection and find nothing clear. Values are what give you shape. They define how you treat others, how you treat yourself, what you tolerate, what you walk away from. Without them, you are just adjusting endlessly. There is quiet strength in disappointing people for the right reasons. Not out of rebellion, not out of ego, but out of alignment. When your decisions come from values, you may face resistance. Some may misunderstand you, some may question you, but you will sleep peacefully because you are not divided inside. The tension between who you are and who you pretend to be will disappear, and that inner unity creates a confidence that does not need constant validation. When you stop chasing reactions and start honoring your values, your life begins to feel less like a performance and more like a genuine expression of who you are becoming. The fourth key point is this: attention is not the same as respect. Attention is quick, it is loud, it is easy to get and easy to lose. Respect is quiet, it grows slowly, it stays. But when you start chasing people, you often confuse the two. You feel noticed and assume you are valued. You receive messages, compliments, invitations, and you believe that means you matter deeply. But attention can be given out of boredom. It can be given out of convenience. It can even be given out of control. Respect, however, is given when someone sees your boundaries and chooses not to cross them. It is given when your B sense is felt, not just your presence. Think about social media for a moment. A post can receive hundreds of likes in minutes. Notifications light up. The screen feels alive. But those same people may not stand by you when you make a difficult decision. They may not defend you when you are misunderstood. They may not even know what you truly value. That is attention. It reacts quickly but disappears just as fast. Respect does not always come with noise. It may not even come with applause. But it shows itself in consistency. It shows itself in how someone speaks about you when you are not in the room. There was a young entrepreneur who loved being in the spotlight. He hosted events, shared bold opinions, constantly engaged with people. He received praise and recognition, but behind the scenes, he struggled to say no. If someone demanded a discount, he gave it. If someone disrespected his time, he adjusted his schedule. He thought staying visible would keep his influence strong. Yet slowly, people began to take him lightly. They enjoyed his energy, but they did not honor his boundaries. He had attention, but not respect. The day he started setting firm limits, declining unreasonable requests, protecting his time, some people disappeared. But those who remained treated him differently. Not louder, just deeper. When you chase attention, you begin to perform. You exaggerate stories to be interesting. You overextend yourself to be included. You tolerate behavior that goes against your standards just to avoid being left out. But attention gained through performance comes with pressure. You must keep performing to maintain it. Respect, on the other hand, does not require a show. It grows when you are steady, when your words match your actions, when your no is as clear as your yes. It grows when people know you will not bend your principles for approval. A teacher once told his class that popularity is a season, but character is a climate. Seasons change quickly. A person admired today may be forgotten tomorrow. But climate defines the environment. It shapes how things grow. When you focus on attention, you are chasing seasons. When you focus on respect, you are building climate. The students did not fully understand at first. Years later, one of them realized it in a workplace setting. The colleague who was loud and constantly visible was liked by many, but not trusted with serious responsibility. Another colleague, quiet and firm, was not always the center of conversation, but when decisions mattered, everyone turned to him. That is the difference. You must ask yourself honestly, do you want to be seen or do you want to be valued? Being seen feels good for a moment. Being valued builds something lasting. When you allow people to cross your limits just to keep their attention, you teach them how to treat you. You teach them that your time is flexible, your energy is negotiable, your standards are optional. But when you calmly hold your ground, even if it costs you short-term approval, you communicate something powerful without raising your voice. You say, I respect myself enough not to accept less. And people feel that, even if they never say it out loud. There is a quiet dignity in walking away from spaces where you are only entertained, not respected. It may feel lonely at first. The noise reduces, the invitations slow down, the messages become fewer, but what remains is cleaner, lighter. You are no longer exhausted from trying to stay relevant. You are no longer adjusting yourself to fit shifting expectations. Instead, you begin attracting those who appreciate your steadiness. They may not surround you in crowds, but they stand beside you with sincerity. And that sincerity carries a weight that attention never could. The fifth key point is this: the right people do not need to be chased. Read that slowly in your mind. The right people do not need to be convinced of your value. They do not need constant reminders of your existence. They do not need you to shrink, beg, or overextend just to stay connected. When someone truly values you, the connection does not feel like a race you're about to lose. It feels natural, balanced. There is effort, yes, but it flows both ways. You do not feel like you're carrying the entire relationship on your shoulders while hoping they notice your struggle. Think about how nature works. The sun does not chase the flowers. It simply rises and shines. The flowers turn toward it because they need its light. In the same way, when you focus on becoming your best self, growing, learning, healing, you create a kind of light. The right people turn toward that light naturally. But when you run after every passing shadow, trying to force connection, you exhaust yourself, and exhaustion makes you doubt your worth. You start believing that love must be earned through constant pursuit. But genuine connection is not built on pressure, it is built on mutual recognition. There was a young man who kept texting a woman he admired. He would send long messages, thoughtful questions, small updates about his day. Her replies were short, sometimes hours late, sometimes the next day. He told himself she was just busy. He increased his effort. He became more attentive, more available. Weeks passed. He felt anxious every time his phone buzzed. One evening, he decided not to initiate. Days went by, silence. That silence hurt more than any rejection, but it revealed the truth. The connection existed only because he kept pushing it forward. The moment he stopped chasing, the illusion faded, and painful as it was, that clarity saved him from years of imbalance. When someone is meant to walk beside you, they do not require constant persuasion. They ask about your day without being prompted. They make time without being pressured. They notice when you are tired. They respect your boundaries. It is not perfect, but it is mutual. You feel seen, not hunted. You feel appreciated, not tolerated. And this mutual effort creates peace. You are not calculating who texted last. You are not analyzing every word. You are simply present. That presence is a sign of alignment. When effort feels natural, you are not chasing, you are connecting. Many people fear this truth because it forces them to let go of control. Chasing gives an illusion of action. It makes you feel like you are doing something to keep the bond alive. Letting go feels passive, it feels risky. You worry that if you stop trying so hard, everything will collapse. But ask yourself, honestly, if it collapses the moment you relax, was it ever stable? A bridge that stands only because one person holds it up is not a bridge, it is a burden. Real connection can handle space, it can handle pauses, It can handle individuality. I remember a woman who had always been the glue in her friendships. She organized gatherings, remembered birthdays, initiated every call. She believed if she stopped, the group would fall apart. One year, she decided to step back and focus on her own growth. At first, the silence was loud, fewer invitations, fewer messages. But something surprising happened. A few friends stepped forward, they reached out, they checked in, they made plans. The group became smaller but stronger. She realized she had been maintaining quantity, not quality. By stopping the chase, she allowed truth to surface. The right people are not impressed by how hard you pursue them. They are moved by how grounded you are within yourself. When you invest in your passions, your discipline, your peace, you send a silent message: I value my life. And those who value themselves too will recognize that energy. They will not require you to abandon your priorities to keep them. They will walk with you, not ahead of you, not behind you. And in that shared rhythm, there is no chasing, only choosing. The sixth key point is this: loneliness is better than self-abandonment. Sit with that for a moment. Many people fear being alone so deeply that they will accept almost anything to avoid it. They will stay in conversations that drain them. They will remain in relationships that quietly diminish them. They will tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, and emotional confusion just to escape the silence of their own company. But there is something far more dangerous than loneliness. It is the slow habit of leaving yourself behind in order to keep someone else close. Loneliness feels sharp at first. It echoes in your room at night. It shows up when you see others laughing together. It whispers questions like, "Why am I not chosen?" But self-abandonment is quieter. It does not scream. It slowly rewrites your identity. You stop speaking up when something feels wrong. You ignore your instincts when they warn you. You override your needs to avoid conflict. And over time, you become a stranger to your own thoughts. Loneliness may sit beside you for a season. Self-abandonment follows you everywhere until you confront it. I once heard about a man who stayed in a relationship where he constantly felt small. His partner often dismissed his ideas and made subtle jokes at his expense in front of others. He laughed along. He told himself it was harmless. The idea of being single again felt heavier than the discomfort he felt daily. Months turned into years. One evening, he realized he had stopped sharing his dreams entirely. He avoided conversations about his goals because he expected them to be minimized. In trying to avoid loneliness, he had abandoned his voice. And losing your voice is a deeper isolation than sitting alone in a quiet room. Being alone gives you space. Self-abandonment takes your space away. When you are alone, you have time to think clearly. You can explore what excites you, what angers you, what matters to you. You can reconnect with the hobbies you once loved. You can rebuild your confidence without interference. But when you are constantly bending to keep others comfortable, there is no room left for self-discovery. Your schedule fills with their preferences. Your energy revolves around their moods. Your identity becomes shaped by their expectations. There was a young woman who feared eating alone in public. It made her feel exposed. So she stayed in a friend group that often excluded her emotionally. They met frequently, but she felt invisible in their conversations. One day, after yet another evening of being overlooked, she decided to try something different. She went to a cafe alone. She felt awkward at first. She avoided eye contact. But slowly she began to notice the details around her. The smell of coffee, the sound of pages turning, the warmth of sunlight near the window. She realized her own company was not as unbearable as she imagined. Over time, she grew comfortable sitting with herself. And as she did, her tolerance for shallow connection decreased. Loneliness teaches you resilience. It forces you to meet parts of yourself you may have ignored. The part that is creative, the part that is reflective, the part that dreams quietly without seeking applause. Self-abandonment, however, weakens you. It makes you dependent on external validation. It conditions you to believe that peace only exists when someone else is present. But peace built on another person's presence is fragile. It disappears the moment they withdraw. Peace built within yourself stays even when the room is empty. Many people rush to fill silence because silence reveals truth. It shows you what you are avoiding. It shows you the habits you use to escape discomfort. But in that silence, you also rediscover strength. You learn that your worth does not shrink just because no one is texting you. You learn that your value does not fade when you are not invited somewhere. You learn that you can wake up, pursue your goals, and build your life without constant reassurance. And the more comfortable you become in your own presence, the less likely you are to accept situations that require why or to betray yourself just to avoid being alone. The seventh key point is this: the moment you choose yourself, everything begins to change. Not overnight, not with fireworks or dramatic announcements, but quietly, deeply, like the first shift of the earth before a new season begins. Choosing yourself does not mean rejecting others. It means no longer rejecting your own needs to keep others comfortable. It means asking, what do I truly want? And being brave enough to listen to the answer. For many people, that question feels unfamiliar. They have spent years adjusting, pleasing, chasing. They know how to respond to others. They do not know how to respond to themselves. Choosing yourself starts in small moments. It starts when you decide not to send that extra message just to keep a conversation alive. It starts when you decline an invitation because you genuinely need rest. It starts when you stop explaining your boundaries in long paragraphs and simply state them calmly. These moments may look insignificant from the outside, but inside, they rebuild something powerful: self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. When you trust yourself, you do not panic at every sign of distance. You do not rush to fix what may not even be broken. You stand still long enough to see who stays without being chased. There was a man who always prioritized others' goals over his own. If his friend wanted to start a project, he offered his time. If his partner needed support, he postponed his own plans. He believed this made him loyal. But years passed, and his own ambitions remained untouched. One day, he decided to dedicate just 1 hour each morning to his personal growth: reading, planning, building his skills. At first, he felt guilty. He worried he was being selfish. But something surprising happened. His energy improved. His conversations became more confident. He felt alive again. By choosing himself, in that 1 hour, he changed the way he showed up in every other area of his life. When you choose yourself, you stop asking, why are they not choosing me? And start asking, am I choosing me? That shift is powerful. Because the truth is, people are drawn to those who respect themselves, not in an arrogant way, not in a loud way, but in a grounded way. When you no longer beg for space in someone's life, your presence carries weight. You speak less, but your words feel stronger. You give less, but what you give feels intentional. You are no longer pouring from an empty cup, hoping someone will refill it. You are filling your own cup first. Choosing yourself also means accepting that some people may leave, and that can hurt. But when someone walks away because you stopped overextending, they were attached to your chasing, not to you. I remember a woman who used to constantly check in on a friend who rarely reciprocated. When she stopped initiating every conversation, the friendship faded. She felt sad at first, but later she realized something important. The bond had been sustained by her effort alone. By choosing herself, she allowed truth to surface. And truth, even when painful, clears space for healthier connections. There is a certain calm that enters your life when you choose yourself. You stop competing for attention. You stop comparing your journey to others. You begin focusing on growth instead of approval. Your mornings feel purposeful. Your evenings feel peaceful. You are no longer waiting for someone to validate your progress. You validate it yourself. You notice your own discipline. You acknowledge your own improvements. That internal recognition becomes more powerful than external praise. And once you taste that kind of peace, chasing loses its appeal. When you consistently choose yourself, you begin to radiate a different energy. It is not about becoming distant or cold. It is about becoming whole. Whole people do not run after fragments. Whole people build, create, improve, and invite others to walk beside them, not carry them. And as you continue walking this path, you start noticing something subtle but profound. The right opportunities, the right conversations, the right people begin to align with you naturally, not because you chased them, but because you finally stood still in your own worth. So now, pause for a moment and look at your own life. Notice where you have been running. Notice where you have been adjusting your pace to match someone who never slowed down for you. Notice where you have been trading your peace for approval, your voice for acceptance, your standards for temporary closeness. None of this makes you weak. It makes you human. We all want connection. We all want to feel chosen. But the deepest connection you will ever build is the one you have with yourself. And when that bond is strong, everything else becomes clearer. You begin to recognize the difference between effort and desperation, between love and fear, between attention and respect. You stop chasing what constantly escapes you and start nurturing what grows when you stand still. You stop measuring your worth by how tightly someone holds you and start measuring it by how firmly you hold your own values. Life becomes quieter in a good way. Fewer dramatic highs, fewer painful lows, more stability, more awareness, more self-respect. You speak with intention. You give with balance. You walk away without hatred when something no longer aligns. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself too. And when you live like that, something powerful happens. You no longer fear being alone. You no longer panic when someone pulls back. You no longer feel the urge to prove your value. You simply live it. You embody it. You carry it calmly in the way you move, the way you decide, the way you stay grounded, even when others are uncertain. The world may not immediately understand this change in you. Some may test it, some may question it, but deep down you will feel the difference. You will feel lighter, clearer, more aligned, and that alignment will guide you better than any external approval ever could. As you step back into your life, remember this. You are not here to chase what does not recognize your worth. You are here to build a life that reflects it. Stand in your values. Protect your energy. Choose yourself without guilt. And from that place of quiet strength, let the right things meet you where you stand.